We know who's going to be out there at this point. Porzingis good to go off the injury report as of yesterday. We saw him practice. We already talked about that a ton here. But I'm looking forward to just the opening minutes of this game because I think it's going to set a real tone for especially tonight. And I don't think tonight's going to decide the series. But it could be a statement in either direction that, all right, Celtics are levels above this Dallas team, or, ooh, the Mavs are going to be a bigger threat here than people thought. And I'm actually kind of leaning toward the latter here. There's a lot of love for the Mavs going on over the last couple of days. Understandably, they're coming in hot. They're looking good. They do some things that can bother the Celtics here. But I'm just surprised at the sheer amount of people picking the Mavs at this point. We've done our picks at this point. But tonight, to me, it's about withstanding that Mavs punch. They're going to attack Kristaps probably on the very first possession. You're going to have to try to exploit them early and often. Probably Luka Doncic you're going to go after. So who's better over the first 2 to 4 possessions to me? As silly as that might sound, I think is going to say a lot about where the series is going. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure for the jump, but I think you're right. The first quarter to me is also, are you going to get this crowd going? Because I always think about Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals last year. I mean, the amount of energy that was in that building, and then it just disappeared because of that slow start. And so I just hope that there's a good enough start that all of the momentum that's going to be in this building is able to really kind of take off. And the biggest thing that I'm watching for is how Porzingis looks, because, I mean, how many times have we talked about speculating about his injury, asking players? We've gotten every single person's take on how he looks. And in 2 hours, we'll get to just see him playing in an NBA Finals game. No more questions, no more speculation. I think it'll become apparent very quickly how he looks and whether he's able to contribute at the level that, you know, is needed from him and that he was able to contribute all year.
I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. These two pretty timely here too. It's almost game time, so you want to check out the Game Time app for all of the tickets that are available at this point. I don't know how many there are, but if someone has them, it's Game Time, and they got the last-minute deals. Even right after tip-off happens, and it is 8:37 here tonight, there might be some people who can't make it. And if you use the code CLNS right now, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Of course, terms apply. And with, again, just about 2 hours until game time here, Prize Picks still offering that 0.5 points or more or less on Jason Tatum. All you got to do is pick 2 players on Prize Picks, more or less. And so to have Tatum only needing to score 1 point to go more, you're going to want to get that for Game 1 here. And you can get a 100% deposit match up to $100 with our code CLNS. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS. So the big question that we might get answered in about a half hour here when we talk to Joe Mazzulla is Porzingis going to start this game? Is there a minutes restriction for him in this game? In my opinion, I think he's going to start. I don't think there'll be a minutes restriction. We saw from what we heard so far. Doesn't seem like it's I think it's going to be about his comfort level, his effectiveness, his rest. So if he is playing 30 minutes in this game, I think it's going to be because he's not playing well. I don't think it's going to be because of him hurting, even though we had that comment about him saying, yeah, I'm pain-free.
Yeah.
So it could come into play here, right? You can aggravate this injury. Stuff like that can happen. But off the bat, I think they're just going to let him roll until he doesn't look good.
I think you're absolutely right. I think they're going to let him go because why not at this point? This is what you saved him here for the whole year, right? And I think the reality is that we're probably not going to get anything until we actually see the game. I don't see Joe giving us any insight on whether he's starting. I don't see Joe giving us any insight on anything new beyond what we already know. And so to me, this is one of those things that we're all going to be holding our breath watching the first few plays. And again, this is one of those injuries where he might play 5 minutes and not feel ready to go. I don't anticipate that, but I think that's an outcome that people should be prepared for mentally. And I also think that it's an outcome that the team is prepared for. I think they're ready to roll if he's not good to go tonight.
Does he start?
I don't think so.
Really?
I think they take him off the bench. Everybody disagrees with me, but I think they take him off the bench.
Just for a keeping everything in place that's already been going these whole playoffs?
Yeah, a little
ease
bit.
him in, that kind of thing?
I don't know what it is. I picture them saying his name and he's checking in and he gets a huge ovation. Like, that's just how I see this. Maybe not. I mean, I think he's never come off the bench before in his career. I saw that today. So maybe he starts.
I can't remember him doing it.
What do you think?
I'd be very surprised. I think he's going to start. I think he's going to roll. Is there foul trouble? Is there periods where they're going at him? That's what's going to decide, I think, how much he plays in this game, particularly tonight. And, of course, you'll see how he responds physically between games 1 and 2. But I think you plug him back into his role. I think that's what's been effective all year. You haven't done, like you said, Porzingis off the bench. So I could see it going either direction, but I think the safest assumption is that he's going to start, that there'll be no minutes restriction here for him, considering that he's such a solid go in this game. From an X's and O's standpoint tonight, I'm interested to see the defensive alignment too. Where are you putting Tatum? Where are you putting Brown? Where are you putting Drew? What kind of defense are you playing here? I don't need you to drop a whole game plan, but what would you do off the start to limit what Luka and Kyrie are going to do here?
I want to see Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both with tough defensive assignments off the bat. Like, I would love to see, like, Jaylen Brown on Luka, like, full court. Like, James Harden defense from last year, like, that level of intensity of he's going to set the tone from the get-go, make everything hard for him. And I want to see Tatum doing the same, whether that's picking up Kyrie for portions of tonight. I probably won't have him the whole game, but I would love to see them set the tone because they fared well in those kinds of games. When Tatum had the Kevin Durant assignment, like, that was a ripple effect for the team. Jaylen Brown, I think anytime he has a tough defensive assignment, it just sets the tone for everybody. So as far as, like, who gets who, I would guess to start we see Jaylen on Luka and Drew on Kyrie. That's what I would imagine. But again, that's going to be one of those other things. We've been speculating about this for 9 days now. I would imagine, just like we're watching KP and how he's going to be moving, the first thing I want to see is, like, who's everybody lined up against on the first play of the game, and whether that's the same on the second play of the game too, because I wouldn't be shocked if they're constantly mixing it up tonight. Yeah,
I think you might actually see Tatum or Brown on a center to try to switch them on the Luka, because you need that size on him off the switches. So I think that's an option here. You're going to see all this stuff, certainly, but I think their best defensive look's going to be Tatum probably on Lively, or Gafford, I think, is the starter here for Dallas at center. So that could be a physical load for them. There could be some foul trouble there too. So those are the sort of things, again, early minutes of this game, are you trying to stash Tatum on a center? Does that lead to him kicking up 2 quick fouls? That changes the whole game tonight. That hasn't really been a thing this year, though. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, you're absolutely right. The last thing you want is foul trouble for either of those two. But I don't know that they've had any foul trouble this year. I can't remember the last time one of those two players were sitting on the bench. I think they're playing teams more straight up off the bat. Yeah, the Celtics are pretty good at not fouling. Like, that's been a strength of their defense. And sometimes a weakness, because I think sometimes they're not the most physical team in the post. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be a dynamic. Absolutely, though. I mean, if someone's going to draw fouls, I mean, Luka's in that mix of people that is very crafty, and he can, if he's getting bothered about Jaylen Brown, I think he'll get him to pick up a few. Well, that goes back to our conversation about Porzingis or Horford starting. If Porzingis is on Gafford, if he's the only center out there, he's in every pick and roll at that point, right off the bat to begin this series. And you're like, all right, how's he going to respond to that? Is he out on the perimeter switching onto Luka every time? If you're dropping against Luka and Kyrie, it's probably going to be a long night. You know how I feel about drop coverage. And they did that. Joe loves that. That could be their game plan here, is to let those guys cook, shut everybody else off, and at the end of the night, they have 90, 100 points, even though those two guys might have 40 each. So that's another option here, is to play more of a passive coverage, drop back, let them step into those mid-rangers, but take away the threes and everything like that. That might actually be the most likely game plan that Joe's going to throw out there, and then you can throw in those wrinkles in spots. And I think, honestly, Minnesota gave you a blueprint of, like, stuff that didn't work also. Yes. And so it's always funny. I always feel this way about, like, Miami. When Miami plays the Celtics, it kind of starts to give other teams a little bit of a blueprint of, like, these are the things you can do to bother them. And I think Minnesota kind of gave the opposite this time around of, like, here's all the things we tried that didn't work. Xavier Tillman touched on that yesterday of, like, it was kind of hard to watch at points watching Minnesota guard Dallas, because there were some certain things that just were so obviously wrong. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier said than done to guard these two, but I think they're going to be well prepared. It's just a question of, like, what are you living with? And that's what Joe's been talking about all year. And that kind of gives it away. Right, and so what are you living with? They're going to live with the tough shots. I mean, they lived with the tough shots with Andrew Nembhard, right? That's been his philosophy this entire season. And so you have to hope that Luka's not going to have one of those nights where he's just making everything. Last question I got on game 1, who comes off the bench? Who's going to actually get minutes in this one? I think it's going to be tight rotations. So outside of, like, Al Horford or Kristaps Porzingis, depending on who starts, I think we're going to see a little bit of Peyton Pritchard, a little bit of Sam Hauser, and that's it. Hauser gets in? I think we see Sam Hauser. Yeah, he's been watching his YouTube highlights. He's ready to go. That could be plan 1. I think we might see some double big here with Tillman. He played in this matchup. You think? He's a switchable defender. Again, they're focused on offense. and they want to have threats out there across the board to make Dallas work, so that might not fit that. But if Porzingis is limited at all, if you don't like how he's looking, it's probably going to be Tillman over Cornet in this series. Again, unless they want to do the whole drop thing. And they've trusted Luke all season. So even though to me this isn't a Luke series, they might trust all the guys that they've been playing all year and try to integrate them in. But as you said, the finals get tight.
I don't think we see Luke or Xavier Tillman,
all right.
But we'll see.
I could see that being the case if Porzingis plays his full complement of minutes here. We're going to find out very shortly if he is at Joe Mazzulla's pregame presser, so stay tuned for updates for that. And show our other two sponsors some love here. HelloFresh, giving away appetizers for life in your box, 1 appetizer per box. Go over there to hellofresh.com/gardenapps and go get those today. Customize your box. I know, Noah likes a certain type of diet here. She can specify that.
I'm vegan.
Get and they'll have a whole vegan option.
Anybody wants to learn more about veganism, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, so they got that. They got all the options for your dietary needs. Go to hellofresh.com/gardenapps and get those free appetizers as well over there. Go to Nutrafol. Get ahead on your hair loss. This series might leave you stressed out to the max and losing hair. That's how the finals are. So get ahead of that with some Nutrafol. Men and women can both benefit from this. In fact, I think a pretty significant number, percentage-wise, of men and women were able to see improvement on their hair loss here using Nutrafol. So go to Nutrafol.com/garden and get a discount on your first month subscription over there. That's Nutrafol.com/garden. She is Noah Dalzell. I'm Bobby Manning. Game 1. Just under 2 hours away. We're going to have full coverage throughout the night. Tip-off's 8:37. Pressers going on live after. We'll have post-game, Garden Report, info, the whole crew aboard for the entirety of these NBA Finals. John's here. Just spotted him. So we'll all be on the show right after the game, on the court down there. Guys are warming up. We'll see if Kristaps makes an appearance here soon as well. We'll have some video of that on our social feed, so follow those as well. Again, check out Noah's work at Celtics blog. Check out CLNSmedia.com. More on Porzingis' health over there this afternoon as well, so go read that. And again, Joe Mazzulla coming up in just a few minutes here. This has been a pregame edition of the Garden Report. We'll talk to you in a little.